Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm James Kane, Coles College of Business, class of 2016. Here with me, I have Patrick Moffett, who is a junior in the Kennesaw State Army ROTC program, and he is also a Coles College of Business MBA grad student, expected to graduate 2017. And Patrick, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for being here. A couple days ago, you had asked me a couple questions about the way ahead within your career. And if you had some time, just want to take this opportunity to maybe address some of those. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to do this. And whatever help we can provide, I'd like to do that for you.
Absolutely. And Major Kane, I appreciate you giving me this opportunity. I do see this as something that ought to provide value to the way ahead, like you mentioned. And you have been a resource to me over the last year and a half or so, and so I fully expect to make this a valuable coaching experience.
Thank you, appreciate it. So first off, I want to kind of lead into it. What goal or what do you want to achieve in the long term?
Yeah, so my goal right now in life is to pursue an active duty Army commission.
Okay.
That's the reason I came back to grad school. The reason I decided to pursue an MBA here at Kennesaw State had everything to do with the ROTC program.
Okay.
And the fact that was the vehicle that I was going to use to attain that active duty Army commission.
Okay.
That is a decision I made about 2 years ago, was to pursue a commission at the time with one of the reserve component, and trying to figure out whether that came in the form of officer candidate school,
right,
or if it was better for me to pursue that in conjunction with higher education, which is the tack that I took.
Okay. So what would be your coming through this? Coming back from going back to grad school, coming back into the ROTC program, what would be your perfect world?
Yeah, so I'm kind of living the perfect world that I can imagine for myself at the moment,
okay,
in that I'm able to focus my energy, my time and financial resources on success in the ROTC program and success as a graduate student, which I define as getting what I want out of my MBA program, which is a focus on management and leadership, which is a lot different than what I focus on as an undergrad, which is almost entirely finance and economics coursework, right, that served me well in my professional career, but it's something that I didn't want to revisit at the graduate level. Wasn't sure of exactly what type of value I would get out of that. So I'm living the dream. I mean, okay, I'm living in a perfect world at the time, and that was, I think that has to do with a series of very purposeful steps that have taken place over the last 2 years or so,
right,
to kind of put that into place. Now, looking forward, the perfect world for me is going to include getting married in the next year and then commissioning about a year. Thank you for that. And marrying an Auburn alumni, which I know you appreciate. And then at that point, commissioning a year from now and then transitioning to the active duty lifestyle with a spouse, the perfect world in the form that it takes a year from now is going to look a lot different than
okay,
what it looks like now.
Okay. With the session that we're going to be doing, 15, 20 minutes or so, what is it that you want to achieve and what is it that you want to walk away from once we leave here today?
So today I see as an opportunity to help me crystallize what that perfect world looks like upon my commissioning on active duty and finishing my graduate studies, and then what steps ought to be taken in the interim between now and then how to approach different decisions in my career, okay, once I've started my active duty time.
Okay, great. So as far as within reality, where are you at currently with your goals that you're trying to achieve?
Mm-hmm. So with respect to the goals that the goals that are really in tandem of commissioning and earning my graduate degree, I'm actually almost exactly halfway with both of those things. So I'm halfway through my spring semester of my junior year in the ROTC program,
Okay.
and exactly halfway through my MBA as well. Although I'm a little bit over half, just when you look at it from a credit hour perspective, but just given the timeline, I'm very much on pace with pursuing the goals that I've got in my sights.
Okay, so basically you're already on a glide path at this time to start to achieve your goals, and right now you're maintaining, staying on that path to continue on in order to reach those initial goals, which is to be a commissioned officer, which is great, fantastic. Is there anything specifically that you're working on right now, or that's maybe required of your time that you're at this time?
Right. So the biggest thing that I'm focusing my time on, and my mental resources, is doing everything that I can to prepare for how I'm defining success after I'm commissioned.
Okay.
And the ROTC program and the mentorship of my instructors goes a long way in setting a framework for that preparation. At the end of the day, what I see ROTC offering up is a means where if you can it's one of those things that you put in, you get out what you put in kind of thing. So through the ROTC program, have offered me a vehicle to prepare myself for success as a commissioned officer. And that comes in a lot of shapes and sizes outside of the required coursework and the leadership training and technical training. That's where a lot of my time goes, is doing what I can now to figure out what success looks like once I'm a commissioned Army officer.
Right.
And as a corollary to that, examining the different options that I have, because there are, infinite combinations as far as how your career can unfold in the commissioned officer corps, and developing what those courses of action may be to figure out what's in the best interest of me in the near term, and that of my family over the longer term.
One thing I want to point out to the audience is that with Patrick, for those that you don't know, to be a commissioned officer, it is required for all commissioned officers to have at least an undergraduate degree, and it doesn't really matter what course or what academic path that he goes into. But with Patrick's situation right now, he's actually working on his master's of business administration at Kennesaw. So as you go through, and this is something also for you as well, as you go through your career and you get that commission as an officer, the further you go, it's going to, as you get promoted and as you progress, your leaders and your supervisors are just going to expect you to have a master's degree, believe it or not, as you progress, especially when you get to the field ranks of a lieutenant colonel and then potentially colonel. So that's actually, and you're kind of killing that right now at this time. So which is, you're kind of getting like twofold. You've already got your undergrad, you're getting your master's degree, and then you're getting working towards getting your commission. So, but just wanted to point that out to the audience that he's kind of taken a step beyond. He's working on his master's, and he's already got his undergrad from Georgia Tech, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
So, very good. As far as your options, so what options do you have at your disposal at this time?
Right. So right now, the biggest set of options in front of me are what branch I go into upon commissioning. So it's definitely going to be the Army, and that's the first thing that I've got to clarify when I explain this to friends and family, is just that I'm in Army ROTC. I'm going to commission into the active duty Army at the rate that I'm going.
Right.
And my decision before me is what form that takes as far as which branch to go into, which are the 17 different jobs that the Army offers up to newly commissioned second lieutenants. And so without going into all the different 17 options, they can be lumped into groups like combat arms branches. So when people traditionally think about the Army, they're thinking about infantry officers such as yourself, commanding infantry units, armor, tank, cavalry type officers, artillery officers. That's what I think comes to most people's mind when they think about the Army. And of course, there are support and service support officers as well that fill out everything from logistics, personnel, everything in between that it takes to run an organization the size
Right.
of the Army.
Absolutely.
So the biggest set of options that I have in front of me are which of those routes to pursue, and that can come in a lot of different forms, meaning that you can pursue a combat arms type job for the first few years of your commission,
Right.
and then revert back to a different branch, which is a fairly common practice in terms of going to one of the sustainment branches, so like logistics, personnel, finance, things along those lines, after doing a couple of years in a combat arms branch. So wading through the basically unlimited sets of options or sets of paths that are before me, and figuring out, what is it that I want out of my experience in the service now, assuming that that's, just my initial 3 years, and what is in the best interest of myself and my family from a
Right.
career perspective over the longer term.
Sure. Kind of going back to maybe your goals, or maybe even a little bit of reality. If you had to make a choice, and you can, if I had a magic wand and I said you can pick whatever you want within the Army. And for the audience, when we talk about branches, and as Patrick was saying, within the Army, you have branches within the Army: infantry, armor, finance, signal corps. If somebody was to come up to you today, whatever it is that you want, like today, and it could change tomorrow or the next day, what do you think that would be, or what would that look like?
Yeah, so at this point in time, I do want to commission into a combat arms branch for the first 3 years of my commission. So I don't know what I would say if you put me in front of a computer and told me to fill out my selections right now. I'd probably have it structured to revert to the finance branch or the personnel or one of the logistics branches after those first 3 years. So upon my captain time, but for the first couple of years, I do want to do infantry, cav, armor, or artillery.
Okay.
Just for that first couple of years.
Good deal. And just for feedback on that, as you look through that, and just through my experience, this first couple of years, if you do a branch detailed, do a support branch after your first 4 years of the military, and you get the combat arms branch, that's where you're going to get a lot of your leadership skills, and that's going to actually kind of carry on for the rest of your career, and you'll be able to bring that within those logistic branches, the combat service support branches, whether it's finance, logistics, transportation, so on and so forth. Just something to kind of think about as you go through your decision process as far as with the branches and everything, which is, I think, is a great plan. Branch detail for the audience is it's an option for an officer to serve in a combat arms branch for 3 to 4 years. You go to your captain's career course. After your 4th year, you make captain, and then you go into your primary branch, which could be logistics or finance, signal corps, something along those lines. And what it does, it brings in a good leadership blend into some of those support branches, which they may not necessarily get as a second lieutenant going to their basic course. So just a couple thoughts as you go through that process, and stuff to think about. But good feedback. I appreciate the following up on that. Is there anything at this point that you've done so far that you could do differently if you had to go back and change anything?
Let's see. Surely there's a few things. So, I think in the bigger picture, I'm 30 years old. The path that I'm on is usually pursued at a much younger age. It's something that I had come back to after a 5-year stint in the private sector. I kind of, again, about 2 years ago, came to the realization that the track that I was on was one that I could pursue really into my 60s and there was a sense of urgency, and there was a calling to do something in the near term before I got too far down along the career path that I was on. And for personal reasons, just where I'm at in life, it made sense for me to pursue a commission at that point. Now, in a perfect world, I would have done things differently probably when I was in my early to mid 20s, just to take advantage of my youth a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But you can never go back and revisit those decisions. And at the time, my interest in pursuits were geared around what I thought of as private sector success, and doing putting all my efforts into pursuing those ends. So I'll probably revert back to that. Whether that's 5, 10, 20 years down the road, I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah, you brought up a great point. You've done some things in the past. We all make decisions. We always go down a certain path in our life that maybe we go down a certain path, but at some point in our life we may go back to the same path that we originally went on. So, you're 30 years old, you're still young, you're still fit. So that's just some things to really think about as you make your decisions as far as your branch. Some branches require you to be more physically fit than others, and as you know. But don't let that intimidate your decision as far as your process as you move forward, because you still got a lot of time, you still got a lot of years left, and as long as you maintain yourself and stay in shape. I mean, the range is wide, so just stuff to think about when you go through that. So at this point, to kind of cap up on things, what do you see as being the best option for you at this time? So
at this point, when I finish my MBA and commission, I'll have a 3-year commitment, and I am using that as a period of optionality, let's say, or a testing period for me and my spouse to feel out what the active duty Army life entails. And I want to, if my career in the Army is short, I want to get out of it that leadership and management experience that you alluded to, that can be found in a combat arms job. And I don't want to spend 3 years in a staff officer capacity if that's the only time that I have in the Army. So with that said, I do want to pursue one of those combat arms jobs over that 3 or 4 year period before I hit captain. And if I decide to stay, I'd like at this point to revert into one of those sustainment type branches. And if I decide to go, the most likely course of action will be pursuing either law school or an additional higher education pursuit with the benefits that I have.
And just the lesson learned from you, we talked about different paths and everything. 36 when I started my MBA program, you're knocking it out. You'll be 31 when you're doing yours. So it's like, a couple things to look at. I mean, like you're way ahead of the game in a lot of people, it sounds like. And also with that, it seems like you've already taken steps right now immediately to moving towards that. And you could say, when are you going to start it? But you're doing it right now as we speak. Mm-hmm. So any specific questions that you may have for me, or as we wrap this up? Or?
I would. Like I mentioned at the start, you've been a huge resource to me over the last couple of years, and I would just ask that you continue to keep an eye out for kind of where I'm at and how I can continue to improve and evolve, and keep being that mentor to me, and see me through to that near term objective of mine of finishing graduate school and commissioning here in next May.
Absolutely, you got it.
Thanks,
Patrick. I appreciate your time. Hopefully this was beneficial to you, and definitely looking forward to the follow-up.
Absolutely, sir. Thanks for this experience. It's been very valuable.
Airborne. Thank you.